Hi, welcome back. This is lesson 3 for sculpture for ages 5 to 8. This week we're going to be using our clay again. And I've got the bag with all of the clay from last time. So I'm going to open some of that up, but I also have some other clay in case I need it. And I can always open it up with my scissors. So what we're going to make this week is we're going to make a superhero. It can be any color that you want. You can use some of the older clay. This is still good. You can see here, like it's stuck together a little bit, but I can just pull it apart and it's okay. If I want to use these colors again. I don't think I'm going to use any of these colors this week, but maybe the brown. But I want to pull all these apart just in case I'm going to use them. And some of them, like if they stick a little too much, you know, like this one kind of mixed a little bit in there. You can always mix that up in there. It's not going to ruin it at all. Especially if it's just a little amount of one color. See, I just smushed it back into that color. You can't even tell there was brown on there. So, it's totally fine. Or like this one here, it's got a little bit of orange on it. I can always just smush it back into it. It's a tiny little bit of one color on the other one isn't going to change it a lot. So don't worry about it if you get a little bit on there. But we're going to start off by making a superhero this week. And what you have to do to start with is pick what your base color is. Now it could be a superhero that you already know of, or it could be one that you just make up. Either one is totally fine. But we got to pick out what color first, like his torso is going to be. You know, the part from the waist up to the neck or so. You got to pick out what color that's going to be. Now, I think I want mine to be red. So I think I'm going to make the Flash. The Flash is one of my favorite superheroes, and I think I'm going to start off with the Flash. This might be enough red for the whole thing, but I'm not certain. But I got the other ones here ready to go. So I'm just going to put them off to the side in case I need them. We'll see. So to start off by making the body, grab a good amount of whatever color you want it to be. Like I said, I want mine to be red. So just rip off a nice, fairly big chunk of it. It's all kind of relative. It's whatever size you want it to be. You could have a really big superhero. You could have one like this big if you want. Or you could have a smaller one. I'm going to go for a smaller one about like this big or so. But it's up to you how big you want to make it. If you have extra clay and you want to use it, just go for it. Like we have 3 sets of packages of clay. You can always use more next time. So you can open these up or save it for whenever. It's fine. Use as much clay as you want is basically what I'm saying. I've been rambling a little bit, sorry. So start off with a big chunk and kind of make it into like a square the best that you can, into like a cube. And I just do that by holding it in one hand and kind of tapping it down a little bit and then pressing my thumbs on the other sides. And I just kind of keep turning it a little bit. It doesn't have to be a perfect cube. That doesn't really matter because we're going to stretch it out a little bit anyways. So you kind of want to stretch it out into like a rectangle shape. Into a shape that's kind of about like this. And this is a good start. And so I keep kind of pulling it out a little bit more, and then I want to flatten it out. Because, you know, your body, your chest, your torso is wider this way than it is this way. You know how this is a lot smaller going this way than going this way. So you want it to be kind of wider one way and then kind of thinner the other way. So you can see I've kind of started flattening it out a little bit. And I'll pull, you know, the sides out a little bit. Remember, gentle, small moves are the best way to use this clay. But don't get too worried if you make a mistake. You know, I crumble it back up and try again. Don't worry about it too much. It's not that big of a deal. So you kind of want to have it start to be a little bit wider at the top than at the bottom, because usually your shoulders are just a little bit wider than your waist. And you see here, I'm just kind of pulling it out a little bit and making it into just like a little bit of a V shape, not a big V shape, but kind of like a smaller V shape for his chest. There we go, kind of something about like that. You can see, and then it's a little bit thinner. It's thinner going this way and kind of good that way. All right, I think this is a good torso, a good chest. So we're going to leave that there. And then now you want to pick out a color for the legs. It can be any color. Like I said, it's whatever color you want. The Flash, his boots and his legs are mostly red. So I'm just going to use more red. I might have to open up another pack of red because most of the Flash is red. But I want you now to get a couple toothpicks. So get a couple toothpicks, and these are going to be his legs. And again, we have to take these toothpicks though and break them in half, because I want him to look like he's running, but also to stand up. So you kind of break it in half again. If it's not exactly in half, that's okay. Get it about as close as you can. Mine came out pretty well. They're almost the same size. And then break the second one in half as well. So remember, put your thumbs right in the middle and kind of break it the best that you can. If you have extra toothpicks, so if you make a mistake, just grab another toothpick and try it over. There's plenty of toothpicks in your kit, so don't worry about that. All right, so now, let's put this over here for now. Now we need to make his legs, and each toothpick is going to be one leg. So I broke this in half. One part is going to be his thigh, and one part will be his calf. And, one part will be this right here. Another part will be that right there. And we want to have kind of a bend at the knee. And that's why we broke it in half. So, take some red, similar to like with our snowman. You want to wrap the toothpick up in the clay. So you can just grab a bunch of clay, put the toothpick on there, and kind of wrap it around it. And if you get a little bit extra, like you can just pull it off, put it with other, it'll be fine. There we go. These, though, you want them to be a little bit thick, though, because they're the legs. So a little bit thicker than the toothpicks from the snowman from last time. So I made it kind of thick this time, and we're just going to leave it like that and get the other part. Get some more red, take the toothpick, wrap it around there. And remember, you can pull off a little bit if you got too much on there, but you want it to be kind of thick. And one could even be a little bit thicker than the other because your thighs are a little bit bigger than your calves usually. But now I've got my two pieces. If one is a little bit bigger, that's not a big deal. You can always make it a little smaller if you need to. Rip off a little more clay. Shape it around again. Remember, nice small moves. Be gentle with the clay. It's the best way to do it. But if you make a mistake, it's not that hard to fix. You can just start over. Not a big deal. All right. It's looking pretty good. I'm, turning it to get a nice round shape like this too. Just kind of lots of little bitty pushes around it, and just keep turning it to get a good round shape. And this one I kind of flattened out a little bit when I was working on this. So I'll just kind of go back around it again and reshape it. Like I said, I made a mistake. It's not a big deal. It's really easy to fix. You just go and fix it. Not the end of the world. And if you get a spot where you get a little crack on it or something, you can always just kind of rub it a little bit and smooth it out with your fingers. Smooth out those cracks. So you want it to look nice and smooth. All right, so I got my two pieces here. Just decide which one is the thigh and which one is the calf. I usually go with whichever one's bigger. This one's just a little bit bigger. So that'll be the thigh, this will be the calf. And I'll stick them together kind of in a shape like this. Because I want him, like I said, I want him to be running. I want it to look like he's running. So we want some action in there. And then once you stick them together, this part where you stuck them together, you can kind of smooth it out with your fingers by just smoothing out the clay a little bit. Get it nice, and you don't have to have it completely smoothed out. Don't worry too much if it doesn't get perfectly smoothed out, but just do your best and kind of make it, shape it so it looks like a knee. There we go. That looks pretty good. That's going to be some good legs. All right, now we need a foot on there. Actually, let's do the other leg first. Let's do both legs first, and then we'll put the feet on. Because I think I'm going to need more red. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need more red. So, again, grab the clay, grab your toothpick half, and wrap the clay around the toothpick. The toothpick is just there to make it stronger so it can stand up on its own. We want our superheroes to be able to stand or close to it. You know, I've made a couple before that couldn't stand up too much, but if I just propped them up against something, they'd stand on their own, and that's fine too. So if it doesn't perfectly stand on its own, it's okay. All right, let's get the other part wrapped up in clay, the other toothpick half, wrap it up in the clay. I got a little too much, rip some of it off. And then just kind of shape it again, you know, into more of like a tube, you know, by just quick, you know, a lot of small little moves around it by just keep turning it and tapping it gently with my finger. All right, got a little too much there again, so we'll get that down. There we go. Looks great. All right. So, got to put these two together and just find out, okay, this one's bigger than that one, so this will be the thigh again. And we'll put this up here like this and stick it down like that. You can always adjust the angle of this too, you know, when, you know, it can be, you know, more like this, or it can be like that, or it can be even straight up and down if you want. That's kind of, we'll figure that out when we stick it on the body. You know, don't worry about that too much yet, because we really will have to adjust it a little bit when we stick it on the body to get him to stand up. All right. It looks like I'm definitely going to need more red, so I'm going to cut my red open right now and just get some more out. Now for the feet, again, it can be whatever color you want. It doesn't have to be all red like mine. It's just, I'm doing the Flash, so, you know, if you know anything about the Flash, he's mostly red. So, I'm going to get more red out. But, I mean, you could use orange or blue or yellow or green. You know, whatever color you want your superhero to be. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to all be the same color either. Like, this could be red. This could be purple. His boots could be blue. Whatever you want. It could be a girl, too. It's like whatever superhero you want it to be. It could be a boy, girl, and whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, it's all what you want. I'm just showing you how to make a person that will kind of stand up on its own. All right. So now we've got one of the boots here, or one of the legs here, and we want to put a boot on it to get him to stand up. So with the feet, you want the feet to be kind of big. They're going to be a little bit bigger than normal. Like, they're going to look a little bit bigger, but that's so it can stand up. So start off with a chunk a little bit bigger than that, you know, about that size. You see this? Like, I've got a pretty big chunk of red there. And you kind of want to make it into like a rectangle shape. with a little bit of a point on one end, because that's where the end of his shoe is. So it's a little bit bigger on one end than the other. And with the back, you can always, to make it kind of flat, you can always just kind of tap it like this. Tap the clay with your finger to kind of get it to flatten out a little bit and kind of just shape it on the other end like that. So you have like a shape that kind of looks like this, you know. And then we take that shape, we put it on the bottom of one of the legs, like this. Looks pretty good. His torso might be a little too small for these big legs too. Might have to make the torso a little bigger. You can always adjust that. But let's get his legs on there together first. And then once you get it on there, like if it's the same color, you can smooth it out. If it's not the same color, then just leave it as long as it's stuck together. And like I said, you can always move it around to adjust it if you need to right now. But we'll just see what it looks like once we get it on the body. And then we need a boot for the other one. Try and make it about the same size as the first one. And by holding them up together against each other, you can kind of guess. You can see here this isn't big enough yet, so I need more clay. So rip off some more clay, kind of put it on there. Move it around a little bit to kind of smooth it out a bit. Judge it again. Hold it up next to it and be like, okay, that's about the right size, I think. Yep. So, you know, most people don't have one foot that's bigger than the other. Most people. There's different people for everything, but most people don't. So go ahead and shape the last foot by, tapping the back a little bit and then kind of pulling out and kind of making a little point with it. I like to take my fingers kind of like that. That's a good way to make like a little point. You kind of like pinch it a little bit. But remember, gentle, small moves are the best way to shape this clay. All right, I'm going to stick this boot on him, on the leg. There we go. We got one leg there. And I kind of smooth it out. Now this is the part where we got to decide, do we need his torso to be a little bit bigger? I don't know. I think it actually is probably about right. So I'm going to go with it. All right, let's take the legs. We're going to stick them on here and stick them on each side. Don't worry too much yet about the shape of it. So like I said, we want to get it to stand up on its own. You can always reshape things a little bit. Just try not to get it to stick together too much. All right, kind of smooth out the spot where it goes together. And then we're going to try and get it to stand up on its own. So find a way, kind of move it around like a little bit and flatten out the feet. Kind of press the feet a little bit onto the ground, onto your table. And then you got to kind of move it around a little bit until he kind of stands up on his own. Maybe it needs a little more like this. Let's try and get it up there a little bit more. There we go. Almost got it. It's going to take a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of moving it around a little bit until you can find a spot to get it to stand up on its own. I want to shape the torso a little bit more before I get the legs perfect. Ooh, we almost got it. There we go. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, close. And then, ooh, he's almost stood up. And it's not gonna stand up perfectly on its own while the clay is still wet. This is kind of still wet. It's still moving. You're gonna have to like You know, let him rest against something to get it to stand up perfectly. But you want to get it so that the legs don't really move too much. The torso is going to flop backwards a little bit or flop forwards. And that's fine. Once it dries though, as long as the feet kind of are working the way that you want it to be, as long as they're flat on the ground, on the table, and you might have to spread them apart a little bit too to get it to stand up perfectly. But don't worry too much. You see mine is still kind of flopping around. Don't worry too much about that yet. We haven't got the arms on it yet either, and we haven't even put the head on it. So it's going to move around for a little while. All right, let's get some legs on him, or some arms on him, sorry. Let's get some arms on him. And his arms are red again. But we got to take some toothpicks and strengthen them again. So take them toothpicks and break those in half again. Ooh, I got a little bit there we don't need. Looks pretty good. And break it in half again. And if you can, break it even a little more at the tip. Break the tips off of these, because we want these to be smaller than the legs. So you can break them down even a little bit more if possible. If you want to use a scissors to break them too, you can always use the scissors to cut the toothpicks, if that's easier. Try and get 4 pieces that are all about the same size. So I have 4 pieces here, about the same size of toothpicks. We need to wrap those in red. And they should be a little bit smaller than the legs, because your arms are usually a little bit smaller than the legs, usually. All right, let's grab another one. Wrap this toothpick up in red. Rip off a little off the end. There we go. So again, like the legs, you just take the arms and be like, okay, this part of your arm is usually a little bit bigger than this part. So your bicep is usually bigger than this. So if you just pick out which one's bigger, and that's going to be the bicep, and then stick them together again. And if you need to, smooth it out. But your arms, again, can be any color that you want. This superhero doesn't have to be all one color. It could be any color. Don't worry too much about what color it should be. That's where you get to make it your own and make it however you want. All right. So then, instead of putting feet on here, we want to put like a fist, you know, and then the fist should be just a little bit bigger than this part of the arm here. So you kind of get a good chunk of clay and make it kind of into a ball. Doesn't have to be a perfect ball, but you know, pretty close. You can always like rub it around in your hands, roll it around in your hands a little bit, kind of make it nice and smooth, and then take that and then put that on the end of one of them here, like so, and kind of get it smoothed out a little bit. All right. A nice fist there on the end. Looks good. We gotta make it a second one. Unless your superhero only has one arm. That's fine too. But most people have 2 arms. So I'm gonna make a second arm. Grab some more red. That's going to be too much. And just take this and wrap the clay around the toothpick again. Kind of smooth it out a little bit, you know, again by just turning it and lightly tapping it. I'm going to take this and be like, okay, which one's bigger? This one's just a little bit bigger. So we'll put those together like that, kind of in like a V shape. Another V shape again. Smooth it out a little bit. And then we need to make the fist again. It doesn't have to have a fist. I just think that's easier. That's the easiest thing to put on there. You could have him have a hand like this. So you'd want to take this and flatten it out a little bit. So let's try one of those. Let's do that. So once you kind of get like a ball a little bit, kind of flatten it out a little bit. So it's a little flat like this. It might be a little big. Flatten it out a little bit. And kind of make it so it's pointy, a little pointy on one end, a little wider on the other end. And you can pull it out a little bit like that. So you got kind of a shape like this. See, kind of like a candy corn shape. And then take that and stick it on the end of the arm. And of course, if you want to put a thumb on there, you can too. I'm not going to. I think it's fine the way it is. Maybe he's wearing mittens or something, I don't know. Alright, we've got our two arms ready to go. So you just take those and stick it onto the top of the torso here, like this. There we go. Smooth it out if it's the same color. Doesn't have to be perfectly smooth though. It's okay if there's a couple cracks in there. Don't worry about it. And don't worry about it moving around. It's going to move around a lot right now. If your toothpick kind of sticks out of the knee like mine just did there, just kind of wrap a little more clay around it. All of this can still be shaped a little more until we're done. And like I said, you don't want to have it, don't worry if it doesn't stand up perfectly yet. We still got to get everything on it. And then we worry about it standing up. And to get it to stand up perfectly, we're going to have to use something to prop it up. Because gravity, this thing that keeps us on the earth, gravity is going to want to pull this down. See, it wants to pull it down to the ground. So we'll have to use something to prop it up. But as long as it kind of stands up right away on its own, that's good. Don't worry too much about the position of the arms and stuff yet, because we're going to move it around. But you can like play around with it a little bit. Move it out, like maybe I have it out like this and be like, eh. Or I could have it like this, you know, or maybe it's like stop. I don't know yet. I haven't decided yet. Okay. So, we need a head. So for the head, it can be pretty much any color you want, but we want to have a spot for the skin tone. Depending on the superhero, you know, some superheroes don't wear masks. Like Superman doesn't wear a mask. The Flash does wear a mask though. So, but it kind of just covers like from this part up to the top of his head and like around. He wears what's called a cowl, like Batman. So like only this part of his face is showing. It depends what superhero you want. You know, he doesn't have to wear a mask. Like I said, Superman doesn't wear a mask. Superman is one of the most recognizable superheroes and one of the most powerful superheroes. He doesn't need a mask. But it's up to you if your guy wants a mask. I want the Flash to have a mask. And so we're going to do a skin tone. So you can take some of your brown if you have any brown left over. If you don't, take some time to mix up just a little bit of brown. Remember how we did that last time? You take all three of the primary colors in about the same amount, maybe a little more yellow than the other ones, and mix it up. Now, he could have a darker skin tone. Everyone on the planet has brown skin tone, but it's whether it's dark brown or light brown. You know, like mine is a pretty light brown. Some people have a dark brown. You know, it could be even darker than this. If it's darker than this, you'd want to mix in a little gray with it. If it's lighter though, like mine or the Flash's skin tone, you want to take some brown and we want to mix it up with a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to take this and grab some white that I still had left over from last time. I'm going to grab that and mix it in here, and then I'm going to mix in a little bit of yellow. Just a little bit more yellow. So we take all three of these and mix them up, and we should get a color that's pretty close to my skin tone. I'm going to go for something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect though. Like, don't worry about it too much. Just make it brown. Like I said, everybody on the planet is brown, so if you get it close, that's good enough. Alright, this is pretty close. Might need to be a little whiter even, but it's pretty close. So I'm going to take a little bit of this, rips off a little bit of this, and you know, because I want it to be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to take even a little more white. And this, I'm gonna keep this for something else later. And we'll take this and a little bit of white, and we'll mix in a little bit more white. So it's got to be a little bit lighter brown. But again, it's whatever you want. If it's brown, that's close enough. All right, this looks pretty close to what my skin tone is. All right. So that looks like a pretty good head. So I'm going to leave that for right now. We need to get a part for like the top of his head or like his hat, his cowl, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm going to take this and I'm going to be like, okay, how big is his head? This is actually pretty close to how big his head should be. So I'm going to take this, roll it kind of into a ball. So our heads are kind of like a ball or a egg shape. So kind of get it kind of close to like an egg shape like that. And then his neck, you know, depending on the superhero, if it's like Superman, you know, it should be the same skin color. But the Flash, you know, he's got something that wears like around his neck and around here. And like I said, only like this part of his face is showing. So we first need to make a neck. So I take a little bit of red and kind of get it to be about the width of the head. I'm going to stick it on like that. That's going to be his neck. Kind of flatten it out a little bit. And then we're going to wrap some other parts around it. So to wrap it, what you want to do is take just some clay and flatten it out. Put it in between your fingers or put it on the table and flatten it out. And you want to wrap it around like parts of his head. So I'm just kind of putting a little bit of red around the back. We need a little bit more. So I'm going to take some more and just flatten it out. And kind of get it to where I want it to be. Alright. See how I'm kind of wrapping it around parts of it and just kind of gently smoothing out parts where there's cracks showing. Ooh, I dropped it. Alright. Just gently smooth it out. And it looks like we need a little more to cover just over here. Oops. So I'll grab some more, flatten that out. Figure out where it goes. And you can kind of pull it a little bit if you need to. Like I just kind of pull it around to go over where I want it. Let's see. It's pretty close. Might need just a little more coverage. And remember, just gently shape it to where you want it to be. Just need a little more on this side over here. Flatten her out, figure out where it needs to go. But again, this is only if they're wearing a mask. Not every superhero needs to wear a mask. The Flash has a secret identity though, so he wants to keep it secret. But you see here, I just kind of wrapped it around, and I've got like that skin tone there. Now we're not going to go into too much detail. We're not going to like make a nose or, you know, a mouth. If you feel confident in doing that, go for it. I'm just going to put a few eyes on it, and that's going to be the end of it. That's going to be all I'm going to do. So kind of shape it around. Oops. Get this over here. And then once you get it, kind of stick it onto his body. I stuck it on here. There we go. And you just kind of smooth it out if it's the same color. If it's not the same color, you don't need to bother smoothing it out. But again, like if there's a few cracks here and there, that's not a big deal. Who cares? All right. He's basically done now. Everything else are just little details you can add to it. Looks good. And like I said, if it doesn't stand up on its own, don't worry too much about that. All right. Kind of position the arms kind of where you want them and stuff and move it around. But all right. The last thing we want to do is put some details on it. The Flash has like a lightning bolt on his chest, like right there. And it's yellow. So I'm going to make some yellow and put a yellow lightning bolt on him. And I'm just kind of shaping it into what I think the shape of the lightning bolt should be. It could be whatever you want. If it's Superman, you put an S on there. You could do Batman with a bat on there. Some superheroes don't have anything on there. It's really up to you. It could be a giant spider or like Spider-Man, whatever you want. But just kind of shape the symbol what you want. Kind of didn't get it the way I wanted it to there, and so I'm trying again. Just take your time with this part. Don't worry too much about it though. All right, there we go. I'm getting it the shape that I want. And you can always use another toothpick. I don't have another toothpick here with me, but you can always use a toothpick to kind of cut a shape out with it if you want, or you can use the toothpick to shape it a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'm liking that now. There's a good lightning bolt. All right, I'll stick that on his chest and just gently stick it on there. It should stick pretty easily. There we go. Once you get it stuck on though, you know, you don't want to move it around too much if you want it to be a nice little detail. And then, like he's got like a circle that goes around it. So I'm going to roll out a nice little snake here and then shape it into a circle. And kind of just put it on here in like a circle. Just want to see how big it should be. So I might need more of that on there. Yep, I need a little bit more yellow to go around it. So I'll shape that around. Roll out a little bit more of a snake. And you kind of judge, like you see here, I'm kind of just holding it over it to judge like how big it should be. And I can always rip off a little bit and stick that on there. And just gently push it on. And now I'm going to use this to add a little more flair to him. And I'm going to wrap this around his wrist. So he's got little bits of yellow around his wrist. That looks pretty nice. We'll do a little more on the other side. And then he's got some that go around his boots. And then we want to put in some eyes and see what else we want on there. So grab this, wrap it around here a little bit until it's to the right spot, and just kind of rip off the rest. And then this will go around his legs, around where the top of his boot would be, kind of close to the knee there. And then grab a little more, roll out another little snake for his other boot. Here we go. He's close to being done. Look at how cool that looks. Looks great. This looks awesome. I really like it. All right. There's a few little things I want to add to it just because it's the Flash. Like he's got little lightning bolts on his boots even. So I'm just going to make like a shape of little lightning bolts and stick it on the side of his boot. Make another little lightning bolt. That'll go on the other side on his other boot. And just kind of stick it like right there. And then he's got ones that kind of come off the side of his head by his ears. Grab them and stick it on, like right around there. Looks pretty good. Again, you can do this however you want. It doesn't have to be like the Flash. Just add a little bit of other colors in there to spice it up, to make your superhero look, you know, flashy. Not necessarily the Flash, but just so, you know, superheroes like to be seen. So you want to make it so people can recognize them. You know, that's in case they need help. They can be like, help, help, Flash, Superman, help me. All right, almost done. One last thing to do is to put in some eyes, and I'm going to make the eyes blue because I know the Flash's eyes are blue, and I'm going to take some tiny little circles of blue and just kind of roll them in there a little bit. Whoops, I lost one. Oh, come back. There we go. Tiny little circles of blue, and just gently stick them on where his eyes should go. All right, he is done, and the last thing we have to do is just to get him to stand up on his own so that he can dry and be in that position. So there's different things we can do for that, but one of the things I like to do is just find something that is going to hold him in this position and kind of stick it underneath him. Or you can lay him down too. You know, if you lay him down like this and you make sure his feet are flat, it'll dry like this, and you can kind of prop his arms up a little bit like that. This is probably the easiest way. So you kind of just lay him down and kind of just get it so that his feet would be kind of flat like that, and just lay him down. But if you want, 1 second. If you want him to stand up on his own, I usually like to find something to prop him up against, like this, and have him stand up on his own and kind of move the arms out the way I want it. Or I can grab some clay. Oops. You want to make sure he stands up and stays standing up. So you might have to move his legs out. Yep, there we go. I got one leg a little bit farther out than the other. If I want his arms like in a specific position, like I'll use another color that I don't really care about, like this purple here, and prop him up with it. So I'll stick this to something else like the ground and then prop up his arm, and then I can always rip that off later if I want to. Looks like this one is a little too big to stand up on his own before he dries. So I'm going to let him lay on the ground. I wasn't expecting him to be this big. I was kind of thinking he wasn't going to be this big, but he is pretty big. So I'm going to lay him on the ground and just kind of prop up the arms a little bit where I want them, and then use something to hold the arms up. Just kind of prop the arms up against something like this. If you let him dry for like a day, he's still going to be a little bit movable, but he'll be a little stiffer, a little harder, and you can move it around a little more to make sure it stands up on its own. But for today, I'm just going to let it sit on his back. It should be fine. But I think it came out great. It looks really good. I'm going to save the rest of my clay for next time. Put it back in the bag. We can use the rest of this next time. Or if you want to use it today, make something else. Make a second superhero. Make a third superhero. Make as many as you want. Put it back in the bag and seal it up. And then, like I said, for tomorrow, I would probably come back in and kind of move him around a little bit more into the position that I want. But as long as the feet kind of line up together, it'll stand up on his own. I hope you had fun. This superhero came out great, and we'll see you next time. Bye.